Adore.
รัก
He totally adores Maria. Appear.
ปรากฏ
A few months later, the grapes started to appear on the vines. Awful.
แย่มาก
The book was really awful. Beloved.
ที่รัก
James was frightened for his beloved sister. Blackmail.
แบล็กเมย์
Dorian managed to blackmail him into getting rid of the body. Blind.
ตาบอด
He didn't die, but he was blinded. Bride.
เจ้าสาว
The bride was wearing a long white dress and looked so happy. Brilliant.
ฉลาดหลักแหลม
It was brilliant, really amazing. Chew.
เคี้ยว
The chief defect of Henry King was chewing little bits of string. Choke.
สำลัก
The birds had choked the engines of the plane. Classic.
คลาสสิก
The novel was finally recognized as a great classic. Confide.
ไว้วางใจ
One day, he confided to Henry that he had fallen in love. Crash.
ตก ชนกัน พัง ล้ม
The crash was caused by a flock of starlings. Crave.
กระหาย
She craved the lettuce, presumably because she was pregnant. Cruel.
โหดร้าย
It's cruel and the wicked witch is really wicked. Cure.
รักษา
There is no cure for this disease. Dead.
ตาย
Henry will very soon be dead. Decadent.
เสื่อม
Again, he threw himself into his decadent life. Defect.
ข้อบกพร่อง
The chief defect of Henry King was chewing little bits of string. Defend.
ปกป้อง
Wilde always defended Dorian Gray. Definitive.
ขั้นสุดท้าย
He's the definitive James Bond. Desperate.
หมดหวัง
A cruel and desperate Dorian contacted a former doctor friend. Destroy.
ทำลาย
He had to destroy the picture. Disaster.
ภัยพิบัติ
Schieffelin caused an ecological disaster too. Drive out.
ขับออกไป
Many native species were driven out. Ecological.
ระบบนิเวศ
Schieffelin caused an ecological disaster too. Engagement.
การว่าจ้าง
Dorian, embarrassed and furious, ended the engagement. Eternal.
นิรันดร์
He sold his soul in exchange for eternal youth. Evidence.
หลักฐาน
There is no evidence of Shakespeare visiting Italy. Expression.
การแสดงออก
His soft expression had become hard and cruel. Fall for someone.
ตกหลุมรัก
They could see why he had fallen for her. Fantastic.
มหัศจรรย์
I think it's absolutely fantastic. Fascinating.
น่าหลงไหล
The talk was really fascinating. Fee.
ค่าธรรมเนียม
How much is the entrance fee? Flock.
ฝูง
They formed gigantic flocks of up to 1 million birds. Furious.
กราดเกรี้ยว
Dorian, embarrassed and furious, ended the engagement. Gesture.
ท่าทาง
Schieffelin's romantic gesture caused an air crash. Get rid of.
กำจัด เอาออกไป
Dorian managed to blackmail him into getting rid of the body. Gigantic.
มหึมา
They formed gigantic flocks of up to 1 million birds. Grab.
คว้า
One night, a sailor grabbed him from behind. Guilt.
ความรู้สึกผิด
He tried to drown his guilt in a life of pleasure and scandal. Handsome.
หล่อ
Dorian Gray was an extremely handsome young man. Hideous.
น่าเกลียด
I can't bear the idea of my soul being hideous. Impressed.
ประทับใจ
Henry was very impressed by the portrait. Influence.
อิทธิพล
Are you really such a bad influence as Basil says? In high regard.
ด้วยความเคารพอย่างสูง
His plays and poems are held in high regard. Kill.
ฆ่า
If he does you any wrong, I'll kill him. Knot.
ปม
This string has tied itself into a knot. Lament.
คร่ำครวญ
His parents stood about his bed lamenting his untimely death. Lock.
ล็อก
The witch locked her up at the top of a tower. Memorize.
จดจ
Shakespeare had to memorize stories from history at school. Moral.
ำศีลธรรม
What is the moral of this story? Native species.
พันธุ์พื้นเมือง
Many native species were driven out. Obsessed.
หมกมุ่น
Schiefelin was obsessed with Shakespeare. Plague.
โรคระบาด
From 1592 to 1594, theatres were closed because of the plague. Playwright.
นักเขียนบทละคร
By 1592 he had become a well-known actor and playwright. Pleasures.
ความสุข
Dorian began to seek new pleasures around London. Plot.
พล็อต
What are some key moments in the plot? Poor.
ยากจน
Sybil lived with her poor mother and brother James. Population.
ประชากร
At that time, Stratford had a population of about 1,000. Portrait.
ภาพเหมือน
I will grow old, but the portrait will never be older. Presumably.
สันนิษฐาน
She craved the lettuce, presumably because she was pregnant. Promise.
สัญญา
Promise me that you will look for it. Rage.
โกรธ
In a fit of rage, Dorian stabbed his friend to death. Receipt.
ใบเสร็จ
You'll need the receipt if you want to get your money back. Repulsive.
น่ารังเกียจ
To his horror, it had become even more repulsive. Run out of.
หมด
I ran out of petrol. Scandal.
เรื่องอื้อฉาว
He tried to drown his guilt in a life of pleasure and scandal. Secret.
ความลับ
I have an important secret to tell you. Setting.
การตั้งค่า
The setting is late 19th century London. Shares.
หุ้น
In 1597, they bought £10 shares in a new theatre, the Globe. Soul.
วิญญาณ
I can't bear the idea of my soul being hideous. Spread.
การแพร่กระจาย
By the 1940s, the Starlings had spread from California to Alaska. Stab.
แทง
He took a knife and stabbed the picture. Suffer.
ทุกข์ทรมาน
Alan, I had to kill him. He made me suffer. Survive.
รอดชีวิต
Tragically, only 19 people survived. Swallow.
กลืน
The crocodile had swallowed a clock. Take off.
ถอดออกบินขึ้น
The Lockheed Electra plane was taking off from Boston Airport. Temptation.
สิ่งโลดใจ
I believe the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. Tough.
ยาก
Being an adult is tough. Tragically.
อนาถ
Tragically, only 19 people survived. Treasure.
สมบัติ
There is a great treasure buried in the vineyard. Ugly.
น่าเกลียด
It would never grow old and ugly. Unfortunate.
น่าเสียดาย
He only left his unfortunate wife their second best bed. Untimely.
ไม่ถูกกาลเทศะ
His parents stood about his bed lamenting his untimely death. Upset.
อารมณ์เสีย
They were very upset when they found not a single penny. Utmost.
ที่สุด
Physicians of the utmost fame were called at once. Vineyard.
ไร่องุ่น
There is a great treasure buried in the vineyard. Wealthy.
ร่ำรวย
His father, John Shakespeare, was a wealthy wool trader. Whisk.
ปัด
When they finally had a baby, a wicked witch whisked it away. Wool.
ขนสัตว์
His father, John Shakespeare, was a wealthy wool trader. Wreck.
ซาก
You wrecked the life of my sister. Wretched.
อนาถ
With that, the wretched child expires. Wrinkled.
รอยย่น
The police found the body of an ugly, wrinkled old man. Yield.
ผลผลิต
I believe the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it.